Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chris Stallings. You know me here on YouTube as MarauderEX, and I'm doing a top 10 video. So on my personal channel, I did a top 10 video. It was requested to do my top 10 strategy RPGs. And in that video, I said that I really liked this concept of doing fan-requested top 10s. And if you had any more of them, send them to me. Send me your top 10 requests, and I would do them on Rainfall. Because, Rainfall needs, a little more content, and this is the type of thing that's right up Rainfall's alley of top 10 lists, getting to know the staffers. We started doing a lot of top 10 articles on the site. So I figure, since I do YouTube, I might as well continue to do top 10 videos. So this one was requested, and I thought it was a really interesting one. Top 10 spells, skills, and abilities from RPGs. Now, in doing this list, I didn't really have too many rules for this list, or for any of these lists, really. So, the only rule I tried to impose on this one is no more than one ability per specific game title. So not too many no more than one ability from, say, like Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy IX, any specific game. So you didn't get more than one. And these are abilities that are either, aesthetically pleasing, that they're really cool to look at and watch, or they serve a really useful purpose. So it's a little of both. It's not just what looks cool or is functional or vice versa. It's a little bit of everything. So starting off, number 10, Purple Lightning from Grandia 2. Attack where Ryo splits into himself and 3 clones, doing a 4-hit attack on an enemy for massive damage. It's a high-end attack. It is his 4th learned ability that you could learn actually first, because the customization for that game allows for that sort of thing, where you can learn abilities as long as you have the coins in which to purchase said abilities and master said abilities. So it could be your first or your last. It is last on the list. It's a very interesting attack. I like it. It just looks cool. Really not much more to it other than it looks cool, and it's very functional within the game's mechanics. Number 9, Beast from Tales of Symphonia. A 2-hit combo that summons a giant lion head out of the ground as its base, and depending on what evolution path you take with your characters for their style, it can have 2 variants. I went with the standard variant because it's what you start off with and you will have no matter what. Really useful attack, really good for finishing a combo, a string of attacks with Lloyd, because it is a 2-hit, and the second hit does do knockback or just extreme damage depending on who you're hitting with. Very useful ability in my opinion. Got a lot of use out of it. In fact, it is one of my favorite abilities from Tales of Symphonia, even given that Lloyd does not get any magic attacks where everyone else gets spells like Judgment. Lloyd's sword arts allow him to still stay in step with everyone else damage-wise, which is always a good thing. Never like to see one class just pull ahead too far and leave all the others in the dust. Number 8, Justice from Golden Sun. It's a summon where an angel with a lion head comes down from the sky, shoots a beam out of the lion's mouth, causing a dome explosion of energy to wash across the landscape. This one is just aesthetically pleasing. All of the summons in Golden Sun take old-school JRPG summons to the next level. They are cinematic and expansive and just give you a sense of awe at the power your characters command. And really nothing says power like a lion-handed angel shooting laser beams. You don't get much more awesome than that. It's gonna again, another aesthetically pleasing one. Number 7, Zephyrus from Shining Force 3. Summon spells in Shining Force work differently than standard magic, and unless you know how they work beforehand, they can be very confusing and very disorienting. Most spells start off as single target, then branch out to AoE. For elemental spells, their final level will be back to single target for heavy damage. Summons, however, start off AoE, but their damage gets spread out over the more targets you hit. So if you hit with a summon spell with a single target, it does more damage than 2. One target, say, does 80 points of damage, 2, it's 40 apiece, etc. Zephyrus has the longest range out of any summon in Shining Force that I've encountered. Unfortunately, it does not appear in Shining Force 3 Scenario 1, which is the only scenario to make it to US and UK shores. However, due to the translation project, I was able to play scenarios 2 and 3 on my Saturn, and I abused the spell. It is in both scenarios, and everyone who had it stayed in my party from the time I got them to the end of the game, because it is such a useful utilitarian spell. It is an assassination spell for taking out single targets at great range with little to no hassle on your end. It's also very MP efficient, so you can just kind of spam it, which is a novelty for a Shining Force game. Number 6, Delta Shield from Skies of Arcadia. This is Eika's second ability. This ability allows her to block any and all spells targeting your allies. All 4 of your up to 4 characters in your party are now completely immune to any and all magic spells, which is very useful considering in Skies of Arcadia, very early on, random encounter enemies have a 50% chance instant kill spell that, while not devastating, is just annoying. This protects against that as well as any and all other magic-based attack. The only downside to this, which is incredibly balanced, is that it blocks all friendly spells. So if you're casting a status boost or some sort of curative spell, it will also be deflected. No magic, period, will hit your party. Very useful. This type of ability does really break the game at certain sections, but it's almost required in others, so balances out there. Number 5, Phoenix from Final Fantasy VII. This summon by itself is often overlooked because later on it gets dwarfed in power by larger, more over-the-top summons like Knights of the Round and Bahamut Zero. But as far as utility goes, this summon is amazing. It not only damages enemies, it can resurrect fallen allies. So as just a regular attack, it's very useful, and partnered with other types of materia becomes even more effective. One of the best strategies that I've found for fighting certain weapon-type enemies is Final Attack Phoenix. That way, if you die, you're instantly brought back, and your party survives for at least another round. But the summon itself is just so useful to be able to cast raise and damage at the same time. That's it's a 2-for-1 deal, really, is all it is, and it's amazing. Number 4, Vengeance Orbs, Panzer Dragoon Saga. Vengeance Orbs is a counterattack type ability where it blocks any and all oncoming attacks and redirects with damage. It blocks multi-hit attacks. Anything that attacks it counts as one attack round. So large attacks in the Panzer Dragoon universe, like Berserker Rage, that hits 30, 40, 50 times. All of those are blocked because it is counted as one attack. Then the orbs instantly dissipate and turn into lasers, counterattacking the enemy. That type of attack, blocking any sort of attack and then counterattacking for respectable damage based off of your magic stat, that can't be overlooked. There are shield type abilities in the game that will protect against X amount of HP related damage, but this protects against all HP related damage for one specific turn and counterattacking. Again, it's a 2-for-1, very utilitarian, also very game breaking. So I had to stick with that one. Plus I needed to show Panzer Dragoon some love. Speaking of reflecting abilities, number 3, Reflect from Kingdom Hearts 2. Again, it's the same principle. I can deflect projectile attacks, I can deflect melee attacks within range, and anyone who is within its area of effect will take damage. This specific ability makes certain fights ridiculously easy. Fights that should normally be incredibly difficult. Specifically the Hades Paradox Cup, where you were fighting Cloud, Tifa, Yuffie, and Leon. Without this type of spell, you're spending more time dodging the enemies than able to attack because the 4 of them can gang up on you. Using Reflect, you want the 4 of them to gang up on you because using a Reflect combo, you can take out 1 to 2 characters just through their initial attack round. It's amazing. In fact, that is the video clip that I've got for this one, is me beating the crap out of them using nothing but Reflect. Number 2, Minus Strike from Final Fantasy IX. This is an ability that doesn't really get a lot of love. It has been used in several Final Fantasy games, but my first experience with it was Final Fantasy IX. Albert Steiner has the ability Minus Strike, where you do damage to your opponent equal to the difference between your current HP and your max HP. Say you have 9,000 HP as a max, but your current HP is 1. If you use Minus Strike, you will do 8,999 points of damage, because that is the difference between your current and max. Early on in the game, that will be a standard attack, because it is very useful because of its MP cost and because of your current HP max versus whatever you happen to be current. It is a very risky strategy, because the lower your HP, the easier it is for you to die and not actually get the attack off, but it is a gamble worth taking. Later on in the game, it is easily eclipsed by other attacks that can and will hit 9,999 more consistently, but at the time you get it, it's a little more useful than some of the other abilities, but a lot of people overlook Steiner because of his lack of usefulness in other areas. And number 1, I would actually like to pair number 2 and number 1 together. I wish they were in the same game, but sadly they're not. Number 1, Soul Eater from Final Fantasy XI. I mained Dark Knight the entire time I played Final Fantasy. It was my main job class. Soul Eater, what it does is it takes 10% of your current HP and adds it directly to your damage output. Certain abilities can increase that to 12%. Certain job, traits, items, or equipment will increase that or decrease the amount of health that it actually takes while keeping the damage output the same. There are lots of little ways to change its formula, but basically 10% of your current HP gets taken away and added directly to your damage. At higher levels, that is amazing. Full HP, you start off using it at full HP, your first couple of hits are going to do an insane amount of damage. It does decrease in effectiveness as you use it, because it is taking your HP, meaning you have less HP to give into the attack, unless you have someone curing you, or you pair it with something like Blood Weapon, which does health back to you per melee hit. But this ability was so broken in certain situations that Square had to actually have enemies resistant to it as an effect, because with multi-hit weapons or ridiculous amounts of haste, you had Dark Knights that were able to solo monsters that should not be soloable by any class, let alone a class that uses self-sacrifice as its primary attack. So, I really enjoyed that attack. It is one of my favorites, and like I said, I would love to see it paired with Minus Strike, whittle all of your HP down with Soul Eater, and then one big attack with Minus Strike. That would be my ultimate combo. But these have been my top 10 spells, skills, and abilities. I do have other top 10 lists that were requested. I'm going to do those. But if you have any more that you want to see myself, or any of the other staff members, you want to see an article of them do a top 10 of, post any requested top 10 list as a comment in the video description below. Just tell us what you want to see as far as top 10s, because we've got a lot of them. A lot of them are really fun, a lot of them are really silly, but either way, they're going to be entertaining. So let us know what you want to see, and I will see you guys with my next top 10. Till then, later everyone.